Good morning, students. Today, as you see, this is a new lesson that we are starting. The name of the lesson is Light and Shadow. We all are familiar with these two words, light as well as shadow. I started this lesson by saying good morning. Now, why did I say morning? Because when I see all around me, there is a lot of light. It is so bright. I can see everything. So that is why I said good morning. So, what is this? Light gives us morning, daylight, afternoon. So, let us see what this lesson brings us. Here, students, in this lesson, our objectives will be: you will be able to differentiate between luminous and non-luminous objects. You will be able to identify and classify opaque, translucent, and transparent materials. You will learn about the formation of shadows and also enlist the characteristics of a shadow. And finally, you will be able to differentiate between solar and lunar eclipse. Now, students, what is light? And what is the first thing that comes to your mind when we talk about light? Can anyone tell me? Yes, it is the sun. Whenever we think of light, it is always sun that comes to our mind. Also, we can think about tube light, bulbs, fire that gives us light. So, what is light? Light is a form of energy that enables us to see all the things around us. The main source of light on the earth is the sun. Other sources include fire, fireflies, stars, and man-made light sources such as light bulbs, candles, red hot iron, and torches. Some other objects also give out light. Sources of light can be divided into two types, and they are natural sources, artificial sources. Now, students, let's see what are natural and artificial sources. Natural source of light occurs naturally. For example, the sun, stars, firefly, and radium. Artificial source of light are those sources of light which are made by man. That is why these are called as man-made sources. Some common examples of artificial sources of light are candles, electric bulb, electric tube, lamp, and some chemical reactions. Now, here we are going to learn about the types of objects around us. Children, we see so many objects around us. Some are dark, some are bright, some are colorful. Yes, isn't it? Now, objects that emit light on their own are called luminous objects. Best examples of luminous objects, as you can see from the figures given, are the sun, stars, light bulb, torch, fire, etc. Luminous objects are responsible for our vision. In complete darkness, we cannot see or distinguish the different objects around us. Isn't it, children? Light that is generated or emitted or produced comes from only luminous objects. In order to emit light, the object must have its own source of. That is why we say that light is a form of energy. Now, a torch shines because of the chemical energy stored in its batteries. Whereas all the stars in the sky, they shine using the energy created by nuclear fusion. Sun also emits light as a result of fusion of hydrogen atoms. What does fusion means? When anything unites with something. This is known as fusion. Hence, they are considered as luminous objects. Some objects do not have their own light and are known as non-luminous objects. They reflect the light from other luminous objects. Some examples of non-luminous objects are planets, moon, wood, pencil, book, etc. A non-luminous body becomes visible only when light falls on it from a luminous body. Now, once again, we do a comparison of luminous and non-luminous objects. Let us see. The first point is objects that can emit light energy by themselves are known as luminous objects. So, what will be non-luminous objects? Objects that cannot emit light energy by themselves are known as non-luminous objects. The second point is these objects can cause the sensation of light. On the other hand, non-luminous objects do not cause the sensation of light. The next point is that the luminous objects are visible as they emit light on their own, as against the non-luminous objects are visible because of luminous objects. Now, the examples of luminous objects are the sun and candle and etc. Examples of non-luminous objects are moon and plants and various things like books, tables around us. Now, students, we move on to the next subtopic, and that is, how do we see things? Have you ever thought about it, children? I know you say that, ma'am, we see things because we have eyes. But what actually happens that we can see with our eyes? Let us see. The sun, a lamp, the stars, and all other sources of light can be seen when their light rays enter directly into our eyes. You can see from the first figure that there is an electric bulb glowing, and the arrow shows the light ray that is emitted from the bulb. The light ray directly enters our eye, and then we can see the light bulb. Now, once it reaches the eye, the brain helps us to see the image of the object. Now, we may say, then how do we see non-luminous objects like the moon, book, chair, or even our friends who sit next? We see one another and other non-luminous objects when the light from a light source falls on that object, which then reflects off their surface and enters into our eyes. Now, the middle figure shows you how the light rays from the glowing bulb first hits the book. From there, the light rays are reflected by the book, and you can see that it is directed towards our eye. Now, once this reflected light ray enters our eye, we can then see the book. The third figure shows you both, that is, how a luminous object like the bulb is seen by us and how the non-luminous object, that is the picture, is seen by us. You can clearly see that the picture is reflecting the light ray coming from the glowing bulb, and the reflected light, once it enters our eye, we can see the image of that picture. On the other hand, the light ray from the bulb directly enters our eye, and we are able to see the light bulb. Now, children, we look into some more examples of non-luminous objects. We pick up a very common object, and that is Moon is a non-luminous object which does not have its own light. We can see the moon because it reflects sunlight into our eyes. When sunlight falls on the surface of the moon, then some of this light is reflected by the moon towards the earth. And to us, it appears as if the light is being given out by the moon itself. Isn't it? That's what we see. We see the moon glowing brightly. But moonlight is the sunlight which is reflected from the surface of the moon. Similarly, the planets can also be seen in the sky because they are reflectors of sunlight. That means they reflect the sunlight. Another very common example is the flower. A flower is a non-luminous object. We can see a flower because it reflects sunlight falling on it into our eyes. The flower reflects some of the sunlight falling on it in all the directions. When the sunlight reflected by this flower enters our eyes, we are able to see the flower. Now, during night time, the flower is visible to us because it reflects the light, but not from the sun. It reflects the light received from any light source, like, say, an electric bulb, tube light, or some fire glowing nearby. Moving on to our next topic, that is materials and light. Different materials allow different amounts of light to pass through them. Materials can be grouped based on the amount of light they allow to pass through them. They are: first, transparent materials are materials through which light can pass completely, and they are called transparent objects. The color of a transparent object depends on the color of light it passes. If a green light passes through it, the object appears green. Air, water, and clear glass are transparent materials. Translucent materials. Now, these are materials through which light can pass partially, and they are called translucent objects. When light falls on such objects, only some amount of light passes through it. Therefore, we cannot see clearly through them. Objects on the other side of a translucent material appears fuzzy and unclear. For example, tracing paper, wax paper, frosted glass are some translucent materials. Lastly, we have opaque materials. These are materials which do not allow light to pass through them at all, and they are called opaque objects. When light strikes on an opaque object, none of it passes through. The light is either reflected back or absorbed by the material itself. Some examples are stone, wood, metal, etc. Here, children, we see some of the examples of different types of materials: transparent, translucent, and opaque. You can clearly identify each of these objects without me having to tell you. So, children, you see, we have come to the end of this video. You have learnt a lot of new words and terms in this video, isn't it? So please go and learn again and again these new terms. Until then, goodbye.